Hey calculus kids, this is Dr. Callahan for week 15 Friday. How are you guys doing? The following are your 3 questions for today, so make sure you guys are doing this on your warm-up log. Your warm-up log is also due on week 18, so it is going to be 300 points, and I will be sending out more information as to how you can go ahead and get your points for that, so stay tuned for that. So with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at MS Teams. So you need to go ahead and go to calculus. And every day, make sure you guys are viewing the assignments. So I'm going to go ahead and create the ones for today, which is week 15 Friday. Oh, no, that's the wrong one. Hold on. And so the topic for today is going to be curve sketching in interpretation of graphs, but this is going to be for the second day because we actually talked about this earlier this week. So week 15 Friday, curve sketching and graph interpretation. Okay, so your instructions here is fairly simple. Make sure you are viewing the assignment. Watch the video, comment, fill in the guided notes, take photo of your work and upload it. Your video today, well, I'm video recording right now, but it'll be uploaded on this link by 8:30, the day of the lesson, which is tomorrow. If you have any questions, you're welcome to join me on Zoom. It is Monday through Friday from 10 to 10:30. It's not mandatory, but just if you have questions or you need somebody to chat with to clarify a few things, I am available. This is a link and this is a meeting code and the password. It is exactly the same one. It's a reoccurring meeting Monday through Friday, so you don't need to have a brand new link every single day. So you're welcome to do that. And also, if you do need to have a copy of the guided notes, make sure you email me so I can go ahead and send one up to the main office for you. Other than that, it's also available on MS Team that you can go ahead and download and print out yourself. However, if you do need to have a copy of this, I'm going to go ahead and include a link on the assignment as well, so that way you guys have that. So your current one ends on week 15, which is this week. So week 16, you would need to have the brand new notes. So let me go ahead and copy the Dropbox link. I'm going to put it on a tiny URL so it's not a super long link for you guys to deal with. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So going back to MS Teams, if you do need to have the guided notes, it's also included right here, you guys. And so every day it's just gonna be worth 10 points and it's due the day of. So you don't have exactly, 3 weeks to get it in because I want to at least get this done as soon as possible. And I'm just gonna go ahead and sign it. All right, so you have that. Now with that said, let's go ahead and move on to today's stuff. So today we're going to talk about interpretation of graph and curve sketching for day 2. So your guided notes is just going to be the 2 pages right here. Here's the first page and here's the second page. Now, if you need this copied, you can either download the entire guided notes, which is on MS Teams for week 16, 17, and 18, or I'm going to go ahead and just attach it here. So you only have the 2 pages you need for today. So here's the assignment for tomorrow, and I am going to hit reply, attach, upload from my computer. Well, we don't want prop and stats, we want calculus. Week 15, Friday. And ta-da, there you go. And you should have that. Now, I also want to go ahead and attach it here on the assignment just in case if somebody needs to access it. So give me a few seconds. Let's go ahead and do that as well. So you have two different places that you can access this, either on the assignment itself, or it's also in a conversation. So that way you guys have all of them. And there's no reason why you shouldn't have access to it. Okay, so that is done. It's updated. Awesome. Let's go ahead and get started with today's stuff then. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the very first page, which is right here. And it says interpretation of graph. This is going on for day 2. All right, so looking at this part right here, you have this graph. First thing you want to do, this is a g of x graph. So just remember that your max and min is when the slope is equal to 0. And of course, you want to take a look at your slope. So this means it's a positive slope. This means it's a negative slope. So you're going to start off the day with a sign line. Here's my sign line, and my critical points is when the slope is equal to 0. So let's take a look at this. This is the first critical point, second and third. And it looks like this one is at -2, 0, and +2. So let's put -2, 0, +2. Okay. Then let's take a look at the slope of these graphs. That's a positive. So on the left side is a positive. That's a negative. In between -2 and 0 is a negative. That's a positive. So in between 0 and 2, it's a positive. And that's a negative. So after 2, it is a negative slope. So then from that, your goal is to sketch g prime of x. So you're going to use a sign line to determine that. And we're going to go ahead and draw the grid like so. And just remember the rules for g prime of x is that your slope is at 0 right here when x is equal to 0. Anything above that is when you have a positive slope, and anything below that is when you have a negative slope. So then I'm going to go ahead and find my critical points, and that's located at -2. And remember, your critical points when your slope is at 0, so your point is actually going to be at -2 right here, at 0 right here, and then +2 right here. So let's go ahead and draw the graph. So given the fact on the left side of -2, it's a positive slope, so it's going to be above the x-axis. In between -2 and 0, it is negative. But remember, you can't just leave it hanging like that, because right at positive, or right at 0 to 2, it becomes positive again. So you can't just have it hanging there. So you have to kind of loop it in like this. Okay. Similarly, with 0 to 2, it's a positive slope, so it goes up. And then after 2, it's a negative. So then it goes down. All right, next one is a sketch g double prime of x, and it's given to you that your point of inflection, which is when your second derivative is equal to 0. If you look at this graph right here, that's when the slope is equal to 0 right here. And it looks like x is at -1, which is exactly what I have here. And also when slope is equal to 0 at x equals +1, which is what I have right there. Okay, so then I'm going to do a second sign line for this. And the second sign line, because the first one is for f prime of x, second sign line is f double prime of x. Your 2 point of inflection is at -1 and +1. So now we're going to go ahead and interpret the graph of f prime of x to fill out the sign line for f double prime of x. And I shouldn't say f because it's not f, it's g. So used to saying that, but no, it's g. G double prime and g prime. All right, so then the rules of this is that as I'm looking at this f prime of x graph, on the left side of -1, which is right here, that's showing a negative slope. And because this is showing negative slope, that means it is a negative, which is a concave down at -1. Okay, now part of this just completely missing, but that's okay. We could keep going with this. Now at -1 to 1, which is right here to here, notice the slope here is a positive. And if it's a positive, that means it is a concave up. And then similarly, looking over here at +1, it is a negative slope. So it is going to be a concave down. Okay, so now that I have that, I can continue on to draw my graph for G double prime of X. And I'm going to put down the point of inflection at -1 and +1. And it's the same thing. So remember, when X is 0, G double prime of X is equal to 0. And anything above is going to be a concave up. Anything below is a concave down. So with those things in mind, if you take a look at left of -1, it's a concave down, so it's going to be below. On the right side of +1, it's a concave down, so it's below. In between, it's a concave up, so it's going to go up like that. And that is your graph. Okay, so then let's take a look at the second example here. So the second example here is the actual graph of f prime of x. So this one's a little bit different. I always like to label everything so that way I know exactly what I'm looking at. So I know that everything above is going to be a positive slope. Everything below is a negative slope. And you know that when it is right here at the x equals 0, slope is equal to 0. All right, so then my first part here is to sketch the f of x graph. So then what I'm going to do is I want to do a sign line for this f prime of x. Okay, so then your f prime of x, remember you're looking at the critical points, which is going to be when slope is equal to 0. So I'm not looking at the max and min. I'm looking at where does the graph hit the x-axis? And that's going to be right here because the x-axis is when the slope is at 0. So that's going to be my critical point. And it looks like I have one at -4, -1, and +2. And these are the critical points. So as such, I'm going to go ahead and put -4, -1, +2. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the graph to see when the slope is positive and negative. Remember, the slope is going to be positive if it's above the graph, above the x-axis. So that is right here. And also, oops, right here between -1 and +2. So then we're going to put a positive on the left of -4, and in between -1 and 2, it's also positive. Now, similarly, where is the graph negative? Well, that's going to be below the x-axis. And that location is going to be negative in between -4 and -1, and also after 2. All right, so now that I have that, I can go ahead and graph this. So here's my graph. And remember, your point is at -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, a -1, and +2. Now, these points I'm putting right there, it doesn't have to be at that location because remember, this is your f of x graph, so your y value could either be high or low. So it's not specifically at 0. So that's different than f prime of x. So given the fact I don't know how high it is, I know it's not going to be right here at 0. So it's going to be up here or somewhere. So I always like to draw like little lines because I know that that value is going to be around there somewhere. So it's along the line somewhere. So then looking at this, you know that at -4 on the left side of it, it is going to be a positive slope. So it's going to be going upwards like that. So it's a positive slope. Then at -4 to -1, it's going to be a negative slope. So I'm going to go negative to -1. Negative slope from -4 to -1, like that. And then from -1 to +1, it's a positive slope again. So it's going to curve up. And then and actually I can probably move this a little bit further up. So here we go. There we go. And then after 2, it's a negative slope again. So it's going to go down like that. So once again, even though I put the points here, here, and here at -4, -1, and +2, I really don't know how tall it is. So yours could be fluctuating a little bit, and that's completely fine because we don't have the actual graph to determine what the y value is, but it's a pretty good summary of that. All right, so then let's go on to sketch the f double prime of x. So then you guessed it, you will have to have a sign line for the f double prime of x. And let's talk about your critical points. We're going back to f prime of x. Your critical points is going to be the max and min of f prime of x. I'm sorry, your point of inflection. Let's put it there here. Point of inflection is going to be the max and min from f prime of x. So let's take a look. Here is -1 and +1, and that's your point of inflection. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the slope of f prime of x. From -1 to the left of that, it looks like it is a negative slope, so it is going to be a concave down. Then in between -1 to +1, it's a positive slope, so that is going to be a concave up. And then after -1, it is a negative slope, or +1, it is a negative slope. So it is a concave down. Okay, so with those things in mind, let's go ahead and draw the f double prime of x graph. So my 2 points of inflection is at -1, which is right here, and +1 right here. Now I know on the left side of -1, it's a negative, so that means it is going to be below the x-axis. So above means it's concave up. Below means it's concave down. So this is a negative, so it's going to be below. On the right side of 1, it's also below. And you guessed it, in between -1 and +1, it's above. So here we go. And that's your graph. Now, you want to, the reason this is called curve sketching is that there is a summary with this. So let's fill out a summary. So characteristics of f of x. So here's your f of x graph. When is it increasing? It's increasing from -infinity over here to -4. And it is decreasing from -4 over to -1. Increasing again from -1 to +2, and then decreasing again from 2 to +infinity. So I will write increasing is from -infinity to -4, and union, make sure you have a union there, -1 to +2. It's decreasing, and again, you're looking at this graph right here. It's decreasing from -4 to -1, union, and it's again decreasing from +2 to infinity. Your relative max and min is right here at -4 and +2. So your it's when x equals -4 and +2. You can't find the y values of that because we don't have the function of f of x. So that's okay. You could just leave it as. And then your relative min is right here, and that's at -1. Concave up and concave down. So it is concave up between -2, and 1. From here to here, -2 to 1. And it's concave down, and if you look at it from -infinity all the way to -2, so here's your -2, here is your 1, so -infinity to -2, union, and it's also concave down between +1 all the way down to +infinity. Point of inflection, your point of inflection are these 2 points right here, so that's x equals -1 and +1. All right, you guys, so we've learned how to sketch the graph. We also learned how to interpret the graph, and I think you guys are doing pretty good, and that's basically it. So if you did the first one right here, and this is your checklist with the video and the notes that we did, you get 20 points. Now, the second thing I want you to do is practice your skill on the second page of the example. So that is going to be right here. Okay, so this is the practice part. I want you guys to go ahead and give this one a try and try it on your own. That is the second piece right here. And then the third part is I want you to create your own curve sketching example. So write down a scenario, show the work, and graph. If you need an example, this is a link that you can click on and go ahead and do that. Now, you don't have to type this in because I have this document attached to your week 15 Friday assignment. So once you open the assignment, just click on it and it should take you to that page. All right, you guys, your exit ticket today is how are you feeling? So pick one, and then somewhere in your white guided notes, justify your response. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. As always, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.